Thanks for coming by to check us out today. Today we are doing a video on moving to Brazil in 2025. Part one. This is part one of a six-part series. We're going to be talking about visas and residency basics, okay? So on this video, we're just going to talk about what you will need to be able to enter into Brazil and also what you would need to be able to make that a more longer term, more permanent stay, okay? So for a lot of us, moving to Brazil, it sounds like samba, beaches, sitting at the beach, eating an acai bowl, watching the beautiful women and the beautiful men playing football and hanging out, right? So, we have all of these ideas of how Brazil is. And it really is like that. But reality check is that, there are bureaucratic things that we have to go through. Without a visa, you won't be coming. Without, other extensions to your visas or permanent residency, you won't be able to stay. All right, so before you start packing up all of your football jerseys and all of your bikinis and all that good stuff, you need to make sure that you can be here and be here legally, right? So there are several types of visas, a good handful, right? The main visa that most people are entering into the country on right now is the tourist visa. Most nationalities can enter on the tourist visa to Brazil, including all Americans, Europeans, what have you. The tourist entry visa was just reinstated for several years. You could just come to Brazil. You didn't even need a visa. Now you got to go online, you go on the consulate website specifically for applying for the tourist visa, and you apply. And there's some paperwork and some process that goes along with that, right? You get 90 days upon entry, and at the 90-day mark, you go to what we call PF, or the Polícia Federal, and you go and you request an additional 90 days if you need to. Once you hit that second 90 days, you are required to leave Brazil. The tourist visa is now expired for the year. You only get 180 days in a year's time, and at that point, you need to go. You can come back in after another 180 days, but you can't actually spend any more than that here legally, okay? And this is an interesting one. For a long time, I've been coming to Brazil. And the first time I lived in Salvador da Bahia, this was like 20-something years ago, it was like a playground. It was a bunch of adults there doing capoeira, studying music, studying pandeiro, drums, learning about the Afro-Brazilian culture. It was just a very fun and exciting place to be. I had friends from Japan, from Nigeria, from London, from the United States, from all over the world, the Caribbean. And so, but one of the things was no one ever wanted to leave. Like once they got to Bahia, to Salvador, folks didn't want to leave. So they would stay and let their visas expired, including myself. I stayed over a year. And so, but there were people there that had been in Brazil for years with no visa, with nothing, tourist visa been expired. Because back then you had to have a visa too that you had to apply for before coming. So long story short, right now is not the time to be trying to do it that way, because now they are charging you an enormous fee daily for every day after the 180 days you're granted that you will need to pay upon re-entry into Brazil. Excuse me, sorry about that. Okay, so what I was saying was, now's not a good time to be testing your luck with that, because the fees are really enormous, and you won't be able to come back into the country without paying the fees. So, for example, right now they are charging you about 100 reais every single day that you're late after the 180 days that you are granted on the tourist visa. So that means up to the amount of 10,000 reais, you could be charged 100 reais every day, which is basically 20 USD, a little under 20 USD. Up to 10,000, that's going to have you needing to pay potentially like a couple $1,000s to re-enter the country, because they max it out at 10,000. So don't want to play with that unless you want to have to be dropping a bunch of money on in immigration when you're coming in, okay? So let's see, another visa that is available, the digital nomad visa. This is a newer one. If you work online, you can apply for it. You get 1 year. You can renew for a second year. You're going to need to be able to prove your income. As a U.S. citizen, I think they're asking for about 1,500 USD in income that is provable through a contract with a foreign company, or some kind of employment contract, or you need to have a even larger sum, so several $1,000s in savings. I don't have that exact amount. I'll put it below when I get it. Okay, so that is the digital nomad visa. Pretty easy to get, but you have to go through the online process of applying. Okay, this is also, and that one also is good for self-employed. So if you're self-employed, and you can really prove it through your payment and your different, however you're paid, the different channels, then you should be good to get the digital nomad visa as well. There's also a retirement visa. This is good for people over 60. You need to have about $2,000 USD coming from a pension or a retirement plan, and you can be here in Brazil long term. They also have the family reunification or marriage visa. So as many people probably have heard, if you get married here in Brazil, you can get a residency through that. If you have a baby here in Brazil, you can get a residency and a citizenship in a much more direct way through that path, okay? So those are options. And that reunification just allows you to come be with your partner and stay in Brazil longer term if the partner is living here already, right? The investor business visa, that one is really great, but it's a pretty serious capital investment. So basically you're investing up to 500,000 Brazilian reais. So you need to have that just under 100K USD available to invest. And that number will reduce a little if you are going to be investing in a business that actually employs Brazilian citizens, okay? And, all of these things, can shift. The requirements can shift. The consulates can have various requirements as well that are different from other consulates. So you need to be aware of some of these variables, okay? And make sure you double check and write the consulate. If you have questions, it's always best to write the Brazilian consulates, in my experience, by email, and they'll get back to you pretty quickly. For the residency path, how do these visas actually lead to residency is the next question. Most temporary visas like the digital nomad, the investor, and the retirement, or the family reunification visas can transition into permanent residencies after a certain period of time. So once you're a permanent resident, you can then live, work, and eventually apply for citizenship. And just a key note here, another one, is that you will need your CPF number to apply for any of these long-term stays. CPF here in Brazil is your Brazilian tax ID number, essentially, and you'll need it to do a lot of things, including open a bank account, rent an apartment, sign up for a cell phone plan. So here in Brazil, without the CPF, not really going to be very smooth for you. You'll definitely be living kind of underneath the surface of society. You need to have that CPF. You need to be ready to, provide that for certain key things you're going to be trying to do when you're setting your life up here. So you can look it up online in terms of how to go about the CPF process. Every area is a little bit different. I know I originally got mine up in a small town in Bahia, so I can't say what the process is here in the big city. Some pitfalls. Some of the pitfalls to coming here, and especially not tying up and making sure you handle your bureaucratic and your paperwork good, is that you come here and you don't have a CPF and you get held up and it's difficult for you to do different things. That's a pitfall. That's an issue. Overstaying your visa can be a pitfall because it can cause you to have to be responsible for a lot of fees, and also just not be, regularized and good here in Brazil, and it just becomes a problem over time, right? Also, another issue is, or a pitfall can be, going on these Facebook groups and different groups and taking the things that people say on those at face value without doing your due diligence, going to the official websites, talking to the officials, and getting all of your information straight, right? And so, yeah, that's about it. The good news is Brazil wants you here, okay? Whether you're bringing your skills, your investment, or you're just spending retirement cash here in the economy, they want you here. We want you here. Brazil, the actual country, does want tourists here, but the key is you need to come prepared. You need to be ready to respect the paperwork and the processes. And sometimes, yes, the bureaucracy, the custo Brasil can be a lot, but you have to go through your processes, okay? And you'll have a smoother landing and a better time, right? So this is part one of parts of a six-part series on moving to Brazil in 2025. Next up, we're going to get into, how to find housing, what neighborhoods to look for, what areas to move to, just a number of different things that we'll be covering in the next 5 videos. Please put a like on this video, and if you can, subscribe to the channel so you can be abreast of everything we're doing, all the videos, the shorts, and the things that we're putting out about Brazil. Thanks for coming by, y'all. Appreciate you. Peace and love.